Hello, everybody. At the beginning, I would like to welcome you all on the second day of this conference, Cooperation for a Common Future. It is my honor to be with you today. I am Anna Zafirova, freelance journalist, and will be a moderator of the first panel for today on a very interesting topic, cross-border education opportunities, a way towards reconciliation. On this topic, we'll discuss with very inspirative guests, and we'll try to give a look on educational opportunities from two different angles. On a professor's side, who are in charge for building educational bridges and encourage youngsters for cooperation and understanding. And on the other side, people who are future leaders, decision makers, students, how they look on this potential for togetherness, on students from North Macedonia and students from Hellenic Republic. Thank you, dear speakers, for your pioneer role that you have in your countries. And at the beginning, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Ljubomir Frčkovski from FON University, Department of Faculty of Legal and Political Studies, to open the floor for our discussion. Mr. Frčkovski, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm great to be with you, participate in this forum. What I intend to shortly sketch in front of you is two parts of my short speech. One is the part, the form, the phase in which we are of the so-called rhetoric of regional cooperation, cross-border educational cooperation, and whatsoever. And second is one example of very concrete, very precise cooperation we start doing, and we are ongoing doing that project in a framework of Erasmus with 5 universities, which is linked with the so-called regional master and PhD studies. This ideal first roadmap will be, according to my feeling, in the second phase. We'll have to start or pass through the first phase, Rhetoric of the Hope. We have that in the title of this conference, or initiatives, or just slight cooperation, exchanging the professors in the meetings, not in the structural teaching, but in the meetings and conference in NGOs level. We will have to enter in the second phase, structuring consolidation of cooperation on an institutional basis, partly, including NGO-like institutions, in the quotation marks. But some kind of structure we'll have to do. Some kind of more predictable and more fulfilled with confidence in our backgrounds and backups in the educational field especially, which, let's say, mean some kind of exchanging of the regular basis of professors in the teaching in our universities, not just visiting but teaching. Some kind of regular exchanging of students. This kind of NGO forums which have to be tackled on a particular important items. For example, we need now debate a little bit about the experience of Greece of putting religious profilation of the person in identity cards. We have now problem with the putting ethnical background of the person or claim to be put in a identity card. This kind of substantial items will have to be debated with the partners in educational level in Greece, not just hopes and rhetorics of reconciliation in a very beginning phase of the I think we passed that, and Dimitris will explain you how it goes. We start 10 years, maybe more, before, and in a more tough times, and practically pass that first steps of confidence, and now we have to enter in this more structural phase of cooperation. That will be, let's say, ideal plan. Vis-a-vis that ideal plan, we have practically nothing on the ground. Zero or near to zero, especially because of the COVID situation, but because of the traditional inertia of the forums or problems with finding the money for supporting of that initiatives to establish this kind of structural cooperation now. I will say structural cooperation, not just hopes for that. That is the first what I want just to stress in front of you. Second is one example in opposite direction, in a direction of a real structuring cooperation. Additionally to that, structuring cooperation of a highest type in educational sense. We are not joking. We want to make highest type of quality in establishing of postgraduate and doctoral studies on a regional level. Idea was to produce the first and only in the history, especially in the history of first and only of independence of Macedonia, whatever, first. So by all criteria, postgraduate studies, which will be titled Geophilosophy of Balkans. Geophilosophy of Balkans, which means main discourses, theoretical discourses, studying of the main theoretical discourses who dominate Balkan region in a period of contemporary history. Contemporary history. Mostly, one pillar is generally critic of illiberal ideologies and negotiation identity conflicts. Second pillar is producing communities and borders on the Balkan, and it producing a myths who will after that produce the communities and involve in producing communities. Third pillar is memory studies, and fourth pillar is body politics. And for that studies, the project is to make curriculums for postgraduate studies on which the students of the region of Balkan will apply. That is normally open for Europe, for states, students coming from a broader region also, but mainly for a region. And participation are, and that is only, and the highest level of cooperation we could imagine till now. Maybe tomorrow will be something better. American University Fund is a kind of host. Pantheon University from Athens and DRS Christopoulos. Singidunum University of Belgrade and Orientale University of Neapol, Italy, and Verona University of Italy, two Italian universities who will be supported to a project establishing regional master and PhD studies. That is something you could do if we get the money normally, and we get that money from European projects. We starting with that project exactly this month, operating the project generally, and that is something that is our support, our greetings to this kind of cooperation on a field which will make structure, which will make studies, which will produce a kind of students and communities of learning together and experience together. And I think that I'm in the framework of 10 minutes. That is my first point. I want to stress that in front of you, that experience with sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frčkovski, for sharing your statements. Yeah, a rhetoric of hope. It's a good start, as you said, and we have that base. But how we can build this kind of a cooperation regarding the information that we have in general, youngsters and students from both countries are not attracted to study and to proceed their education in the neighbors countries. I would like to ask Juliana and Anastasia to share their experience, how they decide to have their education in those countries like Republic of North Macedonia and Hellenic Republic. I would like to invite Dr. Juliana Nicha Adrande, ACT alumni and former intern at the Michael and Kitty Dakis Center for Public and Humanitarian Service, to share her experience with us.
Thank you for the lovely introduction, and I just want to say it's a pleasure to be part of this conference and share this panel with our respectful speakers. Yes, I'm going to, in the next few minutes, talk about the educational and also like personal perspective with the Greek educational system. So first, yeah, I studied at the American College of Thessaloniki, also known as ACT. And during my studies, I was really largely engaged with the student life, but also the civil society sector there. And from a more personal perspective, as we discussed just before we went live, coming from Black family, I've always had some interactions with Black-speaking villages or festivals in Greece. So let's start with just like educational bit. I can firmly say that ACT has prepared me for the world. It is a place of opportunities, but also a place of academic excellence. I got at ACT with a scholarship of excellence, and then graduated as a valedictorian in 2013. From there, I mean, I'm saying that it prepared me for the world because from there I got 2 masters in public policy from 2 prestigious European universities. And I also got a PhD in political science from the Federal University of Minas Gerais in Brazil. So why is a place of opportunities? I would start by saying that ACT is a safe place for intercultural understanding. I mean, you meet people from around the region, from Greece, from the Balkans, but even from the world. And you meet them in a circumstance that you wouldn't otherwise. I mean, I have an example of meeting a very good Albanian friend from Macedonia, which I wouldn't have met here, for example. But I got the opportunity to do at ACT. ACT also hosts a lot of conferences and speeches. It is also the initiating institution for the Borian Tanevsky Memorial Fund. It is a fund for a Macedonian student who graduated in 2003 and sadly passed away after the graduation. So the fund supports international activities and specifically like intercultural understanding between Greek and North Macedonian students. I think that the conference, the Borian Tanevsky conference has occurred like 3 or 4 times since then. And if I'm not mistaken, alongside ACT, I think it has also been hosted by the Phone University. But ACT has also promoted the fund by hosting high-level Macedonian politicians, but also professors. I remember in 2009, There was an essay competition among North Macedonian and Greek students, and it was hosted at ACT. And among the participants were students and professors from Fon University, from the University of Kirill and Methody, and the Tetova State University. I was part of the coordination of the visit, and I remember taking a few Macedonian students into for dinner at my Greek friend's house, and the objective was just to have this more personal intercultural interaction, and it was very kind of interesting because for some of the Macedonian students it was the first time they meet a Greek peer, and before we actually went to the dinner, they were a little bit concerned, if everything's going to be fine, if maybe, something's going to happen. So should I prepare them for something? But towards the end, I mean, everybody was very happy to have shared, a dinner with each other, and to have that opportunity to meet peers from the different countries, right? So I thought it was a good example of how people come when given the opportunities, people come together very, very easily. And finally, ACT. Why is ACT a place of opportunities? I would say it's because there's also study abroad programs for American and European students, and that enlarges the intercultural interactions for the full-time students. But not only culturally, it also brings different perspectives in the classroom, which is something very valuable, but from the educational aspect. ACT is also a place of academic excellence. As shown in the introduction, I was an intern at the Michael Dukakis Center for Public and Humanitarian Services. The Dukakis Center is a private and independent forum for research. It focuses on citizenship and civil engagement, and its mission is to inspire young people to take part of public affairs. And the exposure I got there in the policy discussions is something that, again, I wouldn't have chance to be part otherwise. I was also part of a very active student body and student life. I was a representative of my class, and it was just amazing to see how ACT was open to the proactive student initiatives. And through that, I also had the opportunity to travel across Europe and meet the student bodies from other American colleges around Europe. Finally, ACT has a close network with the local civil society and think tanks, which also exposes you to the local realities that are not easily seen through, let's say, window shopping on Simitski Street. And there were a lot of cultural visits to museums. As ACT students, we had privileged access to the Thessaloniki Youth Capital discussions, which was something very valuable. We participated at the European Film Festival, the Thessaloniki Film Festival, the World Music Expo, and just many more. As I mentioned earlier, on a more personal level, I had the chance to come closer and mingle with the Vlah youth group in Thessaloniki, and just to explore the differences and similarities. And for me, it was very priceless to see how I can speak my mother tongue with people across the border and be able to understand each other. So I thought that was very priceless for me. I remember that my friends from Macedonia, from Skopje, some of them thought that I was a traitor to my identity for simply studying in Greece. However, I think it was difficult for them to understand that the more we travel and the more contact we have with people and with other cultures, we actually better understand our identity, and we become more open to other cultures, and hence we open opportunities for ourselves. And I truly believe that the cross-border interaction, and particularly the one of educational level, is a way towards reconciliation, because it makes us go out of our comfort zone. It makes us become curious about the other, but it keeps us in a safe environment. So I would like to encourage whoever wants to open their horizons culturally, but also academically, to apply for studies at ACT, to be part of the initiatives that Professor Frushkovsky just mentioned, as well as initiatives of YAC and their partners, because I feel like there are opportunities of a lifetime that you surely won't regret. Yeah, so if you are curious for any other questions about like ACT or lifestyle in Thessaloniki, yeah, please feel free to ping me after the conference as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliana, for sharing your experience. And I can notice that you are missing that student life in Thessaloniki
Yes,
regarding your speech. And yeah, you're really one very inspirative for our students because of your experience on a cultural, but as well on an educational level, as you said. Let's see what Anastasia has to share with us. She's a journalist, as I am, but she was a former visiting researcher as well, MSc candidate in University of Amsterdam. Anastasia Tsuka is our second speaker about student life, what kind of experience she has in Republic of North Macedonia.
Hello, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very honored to be among so many interesting speakers who are promoting this very nice initiative of our collaboration between Macedonia and Greece. About myself a bit, I'm a political science graduate. I was studying in the University of Athens, both from my bachelor's, and I received also a master's degree in Southeastern European Studies from the same university. So as far as you understand, I was already sort of orientated towards the Balkan region. I was very interested in getting to know the people and the culture, and I was already in touch with some people from the former Yugoslav countries. I had a lot of friends in my environment. So I gradually started traveling in the Balkan region, and the first country I ever visited was North Macedonia. I did a very, very interesting exchange program there with an NGO, which is commonly known as Balkans Let's Get Up. We did some project management seminar, and during that time we took our first trip in Skopje. And when I visited that city without having any previous knowledge about this place, I was very excited because usually, because I'm also not from northern Greece, I'm from Athens, which is a bit more distance from the experience of having connections with the neighboring countries. It might sound a bit strange, but for some reason, people who are in Thessaloniki are more connected for some reason with like the Macedonian culture of having some Macedonians in their environment. But for me, it was a completely new experience. So after I did this exchange and I saw the city and I saw the lifestyle and I met some people, I was really, really curious to see how it would be to actually live there. So after I completed my master's, I had the opportunity to do an Erasmus placement for trainship. And I thought it was the best chance to actually move there and spend a couple of months of my life living as a student in Macedonia. So I had to search by myself to find actually an institute that would accept me in order to do that placement. And after Googling a lot and trying to find what would best fit my academic aspirations, I bumped on the Institute of Social Sciences and Humanities in Skopje. So I was feeling very unsure of what I would face because I've never had contact with another educational institution in that country. And I just sent an email and said, "Hi, I'm Anastasia from Greece, and I'm interested in doing an Erasmus placement at your institute." And the reaction was very direct and very open. There were no questions or no difficulties. Everybody welcomed the idea of me actually being a collaborator there. They even told me they could like help me develop some research skills, which was very important for me at that time. So from my experience, it is a very extroverted reaction from the Macedonian side to actually include Greek students. But when I actually came up with the idea and said to people around me that I want to do a placement in Macedonia, people were skeptical. Why would you want to go there? What is it there? Isn't that a poor country? Are you going to enjoy something there? Like, even young people, people who were actually studying with me, they were studying the region, they were studying the same countries, had a very different perspective from mine, that I was excited to go. And they were telling me, why don't you choose a placement in some country that is in Europe? So, you know, like that reaction for me was very strange, because I was asking them, have you been there? Like, do you know the people? Have you heard the language? I think that the people react in a very skeptical way as a first reaction. And also what I saw was that many of them were unaware that actually Macedonia could be part of the Erasmus placement, because ultimately it's a European thing. So how can a country that is outside of the European Union be part of that? Many people were unaware that we could actually go. So when I went to my university and I applied, they told me that I was the first person from University of Athens actually doing an exchange for Erasmus placement in Macedonia. And I was like, really? So you cannot really tell me any information? Like, what do I do with my health card? Does the European health card work in Macedonia? Or what should I do? Do I need a visa? What can I do there? They didn't know how to help me. So what I faced, I'm not sure if it's a problem of the institution, but the gap from the Greek side to actually support somebody who wants to do an exchange is an interesting fact, in order to see what kind of problems we can solve in our collaboration and in our communication in between us. On the other side, when I actually went to Skopje and I went to the institution, I found a very different situation. Everybody was very happy to welcome me. My colleagues were all very happy to include me in the ongoing projects. We did a lot of research together on the democratization of media in Macedonia. I learned a lot of things about the legislations in the country, about the political system, about how to actually carry out many things that I didn't have as an experience, like from my home country. I learned how to build projects, how to seek for funding. These are all skills that are very helpful for a person who wants to work in research or to forward their career in academics. So the one obstacle that we found, though, was that I was not a language speaker, like I was not the speaker of the Macedonian language. Many of the projects carried out were in Macedonian, so we found ourselves asking, okay, what can you do? Because we have the language barrier here. Now I have to say that after staying for a year and a half in Skopje, I speak the language, which was a very fun experience for me. So from what I saw from the Institute of Social Sciences and Humanities in Skopje is that they were actively trying to actually be more extroverted and to include more international students. They made a lot of efforts in order to make the Institute part of exchanges and to collaborate with other universities, not only in the region, but also in the UK. So it was a very good educational opportunity for me in order to explore my skills and myself. So what I got out of this exchange? Well, I got to see like how many similarities we have in the educational system, how much we face the same issues and how much we have the same challenges in improving our educational system and to forward produce better research and to produce better academic results. I got to learn a new language. Now I understand also a lot of other Slavic languages. So this for me was a gift, basically. I learned something new for free. Of course, as I mentioned, it helped a lot my research skills, and it helped me in the rest of my life. Like at this moment, I'm also studying in another master's, and I feel that I knew things that my colleagues didn't, because I had this experience. Of course, it's a professional experience in a foreign environment, which is very important because it teaches you a lot about how you can actually perform. And I got to get a better understanding of our shared problems and make new connections and friends. So what I like to sum up, because I'm running out of time here, it's that indeed it's a very beautiful experience in order to go out of your comfort zone, as Juliana said, meet new people, go to environments that somebody else is skeptical to go, and actually give the opportunity to see what you can learn and what you can take out of this experience, and also transfer it like in between societies and see what common problems you can solve. Because ultimately, and the reason that I also started collaborating with NGOs in Macedonia is that I feel that we have so many common issues that we would be a lot more productive to solve together rather than separately. So I would say that if we get a bit more English speaking opportunities, then it would be amazing for people in order to go to Macedonia and to actually try to make a change and a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. Why you didn't tell us that you speak Macedonian? I can greet you in Macedonian. Zdravo, Anastasia.
Zdravo, zdravo na site.
Благодарам за твой odgovor. Thank you for your speech. Girls, you're very, you share very motivational speeches with us. And I can notice by the chat that we have from the students. I would like to share one of the comments that we have, which is a support of your experience. Alexandros Pavlou said that traveling and meeting people is the key to mutual understanding and respecting our differences, because only by respecting our differences we can live in prosperity. Yes, your experience support this statement. Thank you, dear students, for sharing your experience in our chat and your statements in our chat. And at the end of this opening session, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Dimitris Christopoulos from Department of Political Science and History of Pantheon University. He is the last speaker before we leave the floor to our students. Go ahead, Professor Dimitri.
Thank you very much. I'm very, very happy to be with you today because I was genuinely inspired by what Juliana and Anastasia said, because it shows that there is hope despite the difficulties, and for people like me, or for people like Ferskovsky, who spoke at the beginning, that keeps us young, as he said before, because this is what feeds us after all. So when I was preparing myself a little bit for what I was to share with you today, I decided to go through what I consider a success story of what can be an inter-university cooperation that we started with Professor Ferskovsky 13 years ago. And I went through our emails, and I found out that the first email I have addressed to Professor Ferskovsky was in the beginning of 2008, right after the NATO summit of 2007, which was a disastrous summit for the bilateral relations. You remember the Greek veto and so on. I do not have to go through that. But at the time, we wanted to send a message. And the message we wanted to send in the Greek public, in the Greek audience, in the Greek public discourse, the Greek media, was that we cooperate with academics from our neighboring country. At the time, it was forbidden to say what was the name of the neighboring country. So We used the term neighboring country because we will not say Skopje, we will not say whatever. So neighboring country was a politically correct way to escape the problem. So from our lovely neighboring country, we invited Ljubomir in Athens, and he gave a speech. But what we did is that we said that he's going to speak in his language, in Macedonian, and it was the first time that in the Greek public, a professor from our neighboring country delivered his speech in Macedonian, and that was the message. The message that was, we invite someone, we recognize the dignity of having his language, that he calls it however he wants to call it, and that's it. And plus, we spoke about substantial problems. I make a footnote here, speaking about substantial problems, it is always a good way to deal with the issue. Between civil society organizations, NGOs, and so on, there is a lot of rhetoric about cooperation, reconciliation, and so on. That's good, but whenever you need to go to the substance, then the difficulty starts. And then there you need quality. You really need quality, you need academic finesse, and you need political intellectual horizon, which is able to make the points in a way that everybody should understand and respect. Migration, ethnic diversity, minorities, refugees, religion and politics, as usual politics. What politics is about? The usual ideological debates that are heated in every political community. That is extremely important because out of the blue, instead of discussing about who is the other and all these abstract sometimes discussions, you get into real life. What is it about? What do they do? What do we do? Where do we stand? And so on. Plus, for Greek standards, that has an additional value, which is the following, that in this problem that has been between these two countries, the Greek side had no clue about the Macedonian side. This is I know the girls have witnessed that, and Anastasia, she said that, but I'm sure also Juliana, she's very familiar with the fact that she knows about my country much, much, much more than the average Greek know about her country. And that creates a disproportional balance between the two. Therefore, it is a priority, it is an intellectual, ideological, and political priority to feed the Greek knowledge about North Macedonia. To feed the Greek knowledge about North Macedonia. 15 years ago, I was giving a course in Thessaloniki, and I said that we use the term Skopje for the country, and how on earth, it's not nice. Would you like us to be called by the name of our capital? How about you people from Thessaloniki to be called Athenians, imagine? And I noticed that the 30%, 1 out of 3 students did not know that Skopje was a city. They believed that Skopje was the country. You imagine what we're talking about. So, because I see the faces of the girls who laugh with me now, and I know that they laugh because they have gone through that in their lives. We need to work on that. We need to work on that, and that's how we do it, and that's how we started 13 years ago with Ljubomir, and then he invited me with a bunch of good Greek academics in Skopje in 2010, in January 2010, where we discussed about migration, minorities, the financial crisis of Greece. We discussed real politics, substantial politics. That was we did not skip the name issue. We said, okay, we know that there is this issue. We're not building bridges in abstract ideological discussions about the future of humanity, but we are building bridges in order to show what on earth is happening next door. And of course, the Macedonian side at the time knew much more what was happening in Greece, much more than the Greek side knew what was happening in Macedonia, but yet we had to go through that. We wrote a nice piece, a nice op-ed, an article together for two prominent Greek and the Macedonian newspaper, and that is how we went. So it all started then, and with patience and perseverance, These are two key words in our discussion: patience and perseverance. Patience, because you will face defeats. You have faced defeats. We have faced defeats in our times. But the answer to the defeat is not pessimism. It is not a naive optimism, allow me to tell you. And I will end with that. What I mean, it is not a naive optimism. So at the defeats, you need patience. You need patience and you need perseverance in order to be able to run the battle in the long run. So in 2018, in February 2018, no, March, I published a book with Kostis Karpouzilos, a small book entitled 10+1 Questions and Answers on the Macedonian Question, which was translated to English, which was translated to Macedonian, and was preparing the Greek public about what we felt, what we smelled was coming. And what was coming was the Prespa Agreement. And right from the beginning, I knew that feeding the Greek public with the compromise that was about to happen meant that we had to make the Greeks understand that there might be a compromise in the name of the country, which can be, in terms of, you know, international law, something which in extremis can happen. But there cannot be a compromise in the name of the nation and the identity of the people. I mean, you can impose a change if you're stronger in the official name of the country. Okay, that you can do. That has happened already in the past once, yet the results were not that good. I do not want to go that long back in history. But you cannot change the way the people identify themselves and the way they conceive their belonging to a nation. And whether that hurts the Greek ears, the Greek sword, the Greek hearts, there is a Macedonian nation because Juliana and Ljubomir and whoever identify themselves as members of this nation, and that's it. And that is not an issue that has nothing to do with origin, has nothing to do with Alexander, has nothing to do with Philip. It has to do with the way these people conceive themselves as being members of a political community, period. Nothing else. You like it, great. You don't like it, vinegar, as we say in Greece. Who cares whether you don't like it? So, and that is how we went. And the Prespa Agreement, of course, was a milestone in this period. I mean, you know that for people like us, that was a victory after decades of defeats. And I came to Skopje. I presented the book. That was in September 2018, right after the Prespa Agreement. And a few months after, we started the cooperation with Fon University for the Erasmus project, Geophilosophy of the Balkans, which is not, I mean, which is what we are doing here, adapted to a postgraduate or doctoral level of studies. And I am not only happy, but I'm also proud to be able to participate in that and to mobilize people in, you know, for my students in order to do what it takes to come to Skopje, to visit North Macedonia, to see what the country is about, you know, all these things, to fill this gap of knowledge. And filling this gap of knowledge is the priority, as I said, given the circumstances, given the extreme delays which have to do with the ambiguities, the perplexity and the awkwardness of the Greek side today, which is in favor of the Prespa Agreement, but does not have the guts to say it in public, you know, all the problems we're facing with the corona and the difficulties of connecting and so on. This takes time. And as I said, the recipe is patience and perseverance. Not naive optimism, not pessimism. Not pessimism, because if we're pessimists, then we go home. We do not have to sit before our computers and discuss about ways of connecting. not naive optimism, because it is true that the situation is not good. I mean, it is true that the world is not going to the correct sense. Countries have issues. Each country has its own crisis within crisis, like a Russian, these babushkas, how you call them. This is how we are. We are used to that in a way. I know that the Macedonian side is more used also to that. So it's not something which is differentiating us. So it is about hope. It is not about the empty rhetoric of hope. It is about a concrete materialization of a hope as a feeling of understanding, as the existential position of a political struggle. This is what hope was about. We hope, and this is how we feed our need to make our life better and allow our kids to grow up in a happier world. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Professor Christopoulos, thank you a lot for your enthusiasm. And I agree, yeah, no naive optimism, not pessimism, concrete materialization of hope, rule of hope and rhetoric of hope, as Professor Frčkovski said at the beginning of our conference. We have a very interesting conversation between our students on the chat. Let's give a voice of our students and see what they think about potential of education and like a way towards a reconciliation between neighboring countries, Republic of North Macedonia and Hellenic Republic. I'm opening the floor. Who will start? Do we have any comment, any question for our speakers? Please raise a hand. Yeah, Christina Stankovska she's raising a hand.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christina. I am an international relations student from the Faculty of Philosophy in Skopje. And I must say that I'm very pleased to be here with all of you. And I want to say a big thank you for the organizers, the speakers, and the students that are always active here and making us have the best experience on this conference. Inspired from the previous experiences, I also wanted to share mine before I ask a question. I basically wanted to say that in 2019, I was part of exchange students program from students from North Macedonia and Greece. And basically my experience was that in 3 days, we got to visit Thessaloniki. We went to your Ministry of Interior. We got to speak with your Minister of Interior. Also, we had the opportunity to visit the University of Macedonia in Thessaloniki and speak with people from the NGOs and the civil sector. So I just wanted to express my gratitude now, after 2 years, how happy I feel for this exchange and how many things I learned in the process. And I'm also hoping that the students from Greece, when they came to Macedonia, they have the same feelings as I did. Regarding my question, I wanted to ask, as a youth activist, I always want to contribute in bettering the situation for the youth. But for example, I find myself in a confusion sometimes where to start. So my general question would be, where can youth leaders or youth activists, it doesn't matter at all, every young person that wants to make a change in the society, and especially in this, bettering the good neighborly relations between Greece and North Macedonia, where can we start? Who can we contact? How can we organize? So yeah, that is my question.
Who will give an answer to Christina? Maybe Professor Frčkovski? Please, you're muted. Okay.
There is no such a forum as a hotspot in which you just came and gathered instruction for cooperation. One line is NGO who works with NGO counterparts in Greece for what is the status of that cooperation. Second is probably a network which will have to be developed in institutional level from Ministry of Foreign Affairs under the PRESPA agreement articles. There are a few articles in which we will have to produce kind of commission and further talks about the history, education, school books, and so on and so forth. Third level is this kind of establishing educational projects. You could come to university, which is part of that, and get information how you could be included. For example, in the starting of this project, Geophilosophy of Balkan, we will practically involve in the first meeting, online meeting, like a host, probably in March. We will invite some of the students of us which are best in the field and which are interesting to participate in that meeting, not just as public, partly to see how the discussion goes on, and maybe to get some conclusions, to get how they could be involved. Let's say that is the third level, which we educational hotspots in which we establish already some cooperation. I don't think that I have some ideas more than that, how you could be included or get information for.
Thank you, Professor Franczkowski. We have a raised hand from Bitola Hub. Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rula. I'm from Bitola, from Sphere International. Also, I'm a student in Aristotle University in Thessaloniki. This is my last year at Department of Economics. First of all, I would like to say that we should start providing the PRESPA agreement. For example, all of us here, 62 participants, should start saying not our neighbors, but our neighbors from North Macedonia. During my studies, the last 5 years, nobody had a problem with me in Thessaloniki in general. But I don't think that during the education, the students, my colleagues, they didn't know where actually Macedonia was. So from that beginning, probably we should make some changes in the books or maybe some online sessions so the people would know and realize that they have neighbors who would like to communicate, to have friends, to have collaboration like this one here. Also, this is like an apple to everyone. You should search the databases from the students that are studying in the public universities all around Greece. Yanina, Kozhani, Florina, Athena, and Thessaloniki also. There are many who would like to know what should they do in near future, also about the market and future jobs and other stuff like that. I'm open for every communication, for everything that you would like to discuss. My future ideas are to start a job maybe here in North Macedonia or also in Greece, but for now, I don't think that it's possible because of the problem and the situation with the coronavirus. But you should know that there are people who love both the countries and they would like to make some, to increase the collaboration and to have other students for studying or having jobs in the both countries. That's all, thank you.
I will go a step back and would like to share some data with you. Young people from Greece rarely travel to North Macedonia. Exactly only 37% were coming to Macedonia, while young people from North Macedonia traveled regularly and significantly more to Greece, like 83.6%. This was shown by the survey on the perception of young people in 2020, conducted by Youth Union and presented at the 2 days conference, and we can see that those numbers are showing the real situation before Corona pandemic that we have. But I think that after this era, we can change the situation regarding the experience that our speakers had and the aim of our students, and I think because they are future decision makers and their future of our countries, we can see that Republic of North Macedonia and Hellenic Republic, they had a good base for cooperation, and education is a good pillar for that. Do we have, Joanna is our next speaker.
Hello.
Hello.
It was very nice to see in the chat and also before Christina to share their experience from exchange programs, and we saw really beautiful things. But as we said in the beginning of this panel, the exchange programs are not really popular when it's coming to a neighboring country. So I want to ask our professors here, do you think that the universities and especially our regional departments will have a more active role in connecting young people in the region? I'm talking about some common courses maybe, or some organized and more I'm sorry, organize field trips in the other countries maybe.
Could be a chance.
Can I say a word to that?
Yeah, of course, go ahead.
Okay. Obviously, when we talk about bilateral cooperation within the framework of these projects and so on, it goes without saying that a part of that is also related to this idea you mentioned about field trips. Allow me to share with you an experience I had in 2006. I took 40 of my students and we did a field trip in Macedonia and Albania at the time. It was within the framework of a lesson, a course on minorities in Europe. And then and there I invited some people that I knew had a very active role in the drafting of the Ohrid agreement in 2001. We spoke about the relations between the two communities in North Macedonia. We spoke about the issue of the Slav Macedonian political refugees and so on, all the difficult issues, let's say. And I have to tell you that I consider this trip one of the best, one of the most important achievements I've done in the Greek university for an extremely low budget. I mean, 40 students, it costed less than 4,000 euros for 5 days. Everything was very cheap. Okay, I worked like a donkey, but it was part of the description, let's say. I loved it. And, you know, the kids cannot forget that. I mean, even a week ago, a girl who is now, I don't know, about 30, she said to me how important was for the way she sees things, that she went to Ohrid, she went to Skopje, she saw what she saw, and she spoke with the people she spoke to. So I think that speaking about the cooperation, we should distinguish one, the level of the individualized cooperation, which is related to the, you know, the doctoral student who will stay 3 months there, 3 months in Athens, 3 months in Skopje, 3 months in Saloniki, 3 months I don't know where, and or, you know, the student or the professor. Let's say I can imagine myself spending 20 days in Skopje doing some seminars there for them, or Ferskovsky coming to Athens to do his part of the work in such a condensed period. But there is also another side of the coin, which is much more massive in terms of numbers, exchanges, and bringing people together, and particularly making Greeks visit North Macedonia. This is what it is about. Trust me, I know that everybody who has done this trip back and forth knows very much what I'm talking about, and I think that they very much agree. I think that there is a potential there. There is a potential. Let's wait a little bit for the corona to finish, but we have work, and that is not only work for me and Ferskovsky. No, I mean, I'm not talking about us as persons, but people of our surrounding, but it's also work coming from organizations such as the Youth Alliance, the work of whom I wish to acknowledge and congratulate, but also people like you. I mean, you need to take initiatives. It costs nothing to spend 3 days in Krushevo. It costs much less than to spend 3 days in another Krushevo of Greece. But this is what Greeks do not know. So.
And if I may add to that, I mean, you presented earlier that there are much more Macedonian students, young people, going to Greece, but then for what purpose? Because we know that it's so nice to like pass the weekend, let's say, but I feel like we don't know how many people, like students or young people in Macedonia, are actively engaged towards working for, towards reconciliation, towards mutual understanding. But yeah, of course, it's really nice, to go for a walk in Thessaloniki. So I feel like, yeah, you presented that there should be more exposure to the Greek young people in Macedonia, but I feel that that's reciprocal, like that it should also come from our side, but for the same purpose, not only for visit, like with Macedonian students or with Macedonian friends in Thessaloniki, but have that like more mutual interaction. And yeah, I agree. The only and maybe the more sustainable way of doing that is via institutional support, be that from civil society, be that from youth initiatives or from university initiatives. And there are many. You just need, as Mr. Fitchkowski mentioned at the beginning, you just need to find them. And I feel like this conference is also, sorry to just add, this conference is also a place to start, right? I mean, you already have most of the speakers and students that are listening in are those connectors. So maybe a way forward for the person who asked the first question is to actually reach out to the guest speakers, but also to the participants.
Yeah, this conference is a good start for reconciliation. And I think that regarding your opinion, we have a lot of opportunities to go forward. I would like just to share that Professor Frčkovski has to leave because he has an exam today. We are wishing lucky of his students to pass the exam. Do we have another student who wants to share experience with us, his opinion, her opinion, maybe ask a question? I cannot see a raised hand. Okay. Jovica?
Thank you for giving the right to ask question. Hello, everyone. My name is Jovica Jankovic. I'm from North Macedonia, Skopje. I'm a law student, second year, and I have one question and one friends even beyond. If you can hear me, moving on, I would like to ask that everyone who is here, maybe there are 100 participants, maybe 1,000, maybe 100,000. Everyone here believes in cooperation, nobody here is against us having cooperation with North Macedonia, with Greece, or with Bulgaria, whoever else. But how can we also open a discussion with people who are actively against cooperation, who are actively against kind of conferences, or kind of too nationalist or chauvinism? Because the follow-up question is media literacy. There's so many fake news. People are very influenced, and they don't have nationalism, they have chauvinism, and that's very hard, because if one side shows chauvinism, the other side also shows chauvinism. It's like action reaction. If from North Macedonia they say everyone to our neighbors, the neighbors will say, hey, what the hell, deaf to you as well. And that's how the Balkan works pretty much this past hundreds of years. I believe that all of us here don't wish anything bad to the other person. We all want to cooperate, but how can we also open up the doors to the people who are very small-minded, closed-minded towards these kind of conferences or cooperation, etc., etc. And I saw a study. I don't know whether it's 100% true. In North Macedonia, we are the last place in the region about media literacy. That means that I can literally open a medium and say something that's fake news, and people will probably believe it in North Macedonia. Is there any way, like political education or media education, which can help us prevent this kind of chauvinism, etc.?
Thank you, Jovica, for this challenging question. Maybe Anastasia could give an answer, because she is a journalist and she faced that kind of opinion in her previous experience before she came to North Macedonia.
Of course, yes, I would jump in anyway. I have to say that I have had skeptical people in my environment, like in my very close family. I've been faced with this type of nationalistic ideas, and people are very negative and very aggressive sometimes. So for us, that we come from a more rational, let's say, point of view, or a more positive one, I think that it is important to focus on small-scale initiatives first. Like if you make conversation with somebody who is so negative, the best thing you can do is to carry on with the conversation and to try to show your point of view in a civilized way. Like the more we speak with people and the more we give them the chance to be exposed to something different, the more you can have a positive result. If you back off from actually sharing your experience or sharing your point of view, nothing is going to change for them. So it's very important that us as people who want to be included and who want to open up the paths of collaboration to actually focus on influencing the people who have close to us, because it's very important through one conversation to change the perspective or the opinion of somebody else, because what we're battling basically here is ignorance. So from that perspective, we have to actually fill in the gap of information for the people, because it's lack of knowledge, it's fear, is actually the media, especially from the Greek side, that are feeding this negative view on our neighboring countries. So yeah, the first thing is to do your part as an individual on other individuals. And in terms of the media, I understand the concern about fake news and everything. Unfortunately, that I was working in a quite big newspaper, I was working for Kathimerini, we were skeptical, not within the establishment itself, but the people may have different opinions, but the paper might not publish always something that is openly positive about the agreement for obvious reasons. So again, like the media might have political identities, but I think that we can find always alternative ways to inform ourselves. We can always read the works of people who are actually working actively on this, because there are alternative platforms, there are so many portals and websites from people who do small-scale initiatives. Like, I think that step by step, and by acting like on as people and as students or as professors or as journalists, we can actually promote something that is not so mainstream at the moment. Because if something is so obscure that you can actually get people to know about it, how you can actually make them believe something other than that? Because it's not only about being fake news, it's also about being negative news, or being news that are propagandistic in some way. So I think, yeah, that the most important thing is to actually find alternative ways around the mainstream news in order to face this.
Yeah, media had a very important role towards building a path for reconciliation. But media literacy that could be involved in educational process maybe could be more important in this period, or in the period that we are following. Do we have another student? Thank you, Jovica, for the challenge that you gave us. Again, Bitola Hub. Or maybe Ohrid Hub. Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
From Vital? Okay, thank you. My name is Christian Belyanov. I'm from Pelagonia Association. We're in the Bitola Hub here at Sfera International. Greetings to all. In continuance of the discussion ongoing on the chat, and especially of the two ladies, Christina Stankovska and Angeliki Devreli, and many others, I believe, that share the same opinions and thoughts. Pelagonia Association, I will give just an example at this point. Pelagonia Association is trying for many years now to cooperate and bring closer the Greek universities to the public of the youngsters, of the youth in North Macedonia. Thanks to the Prespa agreement, in the last 2 years, we were able to start discussing openly and approach more easily the Greek universities to present themselves. So we are preparing an event in early April with until now we have 5 universities from Greece confirmed. We are waiting for other 2 or 3 that we have approached to present themselves at an online event of the possibilities of studying in Greece for young people in North Macedonia, openly to the public, not through a certain project. This event is being organized by through the alumni of the students from Bitola, Prilep, Skopje, and other cities in North Macedonia that study or have studied in Greece. I'm one of them since 2002. I've studied at 2 universities in Greece, and my experience is wonderful until now. But I believe that I will mention again, thanks to the Prespa agreement, we Greek universities and the officials from Greek universities started answering to our calls. So about what is going to happen next, I think that initiatives like this one, and even like the project we are participating yesterday and today, are good to bring things closer to young people and outside the frames of cultivated in a laboratory, let me say, thoughts and discussions. And I believe that this is the field situation, and it is good. It is very promising. It was, thank you.
Thank you for your optimism, not pessimism. We have a raised hand from Ohrid Hub.
Hello, everyone. This is Sylvia from Ohrid, signing in from a different space today. Nice to again. My question is actually the question from Inclusia is how can we make better collaboration between students from private universities? That would be my question. And Simona?
I also have a question. Thank you for everyone being here and listening to us. I would like to ask if there's anyone individually who makes the connections between students, who gave the information to everyone who needs it to be aware of the opportunity of studying somewhere else in the other countries besides Greece or anywhere else outside of Macedonia.
Maybe Professor Christina, you can give an answer for the second question. Professor Christopoulos, can you give us an answer to the second question from Ohrid about opportunities for exchange programs?
I wish I could give a specific answer. I'm not in position to provide a specific ideas. So that's why I did not take the initiative to answer. I'm sorry for that.
Okay. Maybe Juliana, do you have any information regarding your experience from ACT, for example?
Yes, I'm not aware of any formal institutional cooperation that facilitates exchanges between private universities like ACT and a Macedonian one. But of course, you can apply. I mean, the only opportunity I know is direct application, so like a full-time or part-time student, and there are opportunities also for some scholarships. But as for formal exchange, like a study, like a study abroad for a semester or similarly, I'm not aware of.
Thank you. Maybe this conference could continue in that way. Maybe it could be a base for informing about us, about exchange programs or something like that. Eleni, she is the next one in our discussion.
Yes. Hello to everyone. I had a question to make. So it is given that there should be more programs and collaborations between the universities, so the students can can participate in programs and they can be active. And I completely agree. But what happens if the academics and the professors themselves have prejudice and they're not interested to be active, and they are the ones who actually prevent the implementation of such programs? And maybe that's one of the reasons why the cooperation between the universities was low. And I say that because I study Balkan, Slavic and Oriental Studies at the University of Macedonia in Thessaloniki. And when I applied for my Erasmus, I couldn't choose any university in North Macedonia. Like, we didn't have any cooperative university. And it was after the PRESP agreement, there was only one university and it was only available for master students. So what happens when the professors, they don't want and they are not really interested in the cooperation between the universities?
Yeah, that is a hot topic.
The reason why there has not been before the PRESP agreement any kind of cooperation between institutional cooperation, I mean between universities, is not that much the prejudice of the professors, particularly of the Greek side, but reasons that had to do with the formal sides of the bureaucratic aspects of this cooperation. So, for example, when I did this field visit in 2007, and I brought back the invoices I had from restaurants and hotels and so on and so on. Most of the invoices had the name of the country on. So for every invoice, I had to debate what was the name of the country. It was impossible for me to do that, as you understand. I mean, plus I paid a lot from my pocket because, you know, so it's not so ideological issue of prejudice in the sense that Christopoulos or Christopoulos has prejudice, but was the barrier of the non-recognition of the constitutional name. So after Prespa, I understand that this can be a relevant question. Yet I also understand that there are some people, particularly in Greece, but I know also in North Macedonia, that are willing to overcome the barrier. For Greek standards, don't think that it's that much a barrier. That has to do also with the classic name issue or the Macedonian question in general, but it's an issue that has to do with a certain way that the Greek academics regard their Balkan context, let's say. For the Greek academics, most of the Greek academics, the correct way to go for an exchange is to go to Germany, to France, to the States, to the Netherlands, and so on. Not to go to Macedonia, not to go to North Macedonia, not to Serbia, not even to Turkey sometimes. These are new things for Greece. These are things that are related that you know, when it comes to an exchange with England, there is a provincialism in Greece. Oh, we're going to England. When it comes to an exchange with Macedonia or North Macedonia or to Albania or to blah, there is a kind of elitism and a kind of arrogance, classic things. You know that very, very well. I see again the girls laughing with me. I know that they have felt that in their souls. So that will take time. That's why I'm telling you, you need patience. The Greeks need to understand that, okay, of course, the Netherlands, it's a nice place to go for an exchange, but it's not the only way, a place to go. And that is also what I see with Erasmus students coming to Greece, for example. A lot of Germans are coming to Greece and they're having an excellent time, not only because they enjoy themselves some music in the bars and the restaurants, but because they get a quality education in Greece. And everybody knows that that is an education you can get in Greece. So they have to fight with their own prejudice and their own stereotypes about the lazy South European Greeks that do nothing but spend the European money. But this is not a bilateral issue. That is an issue that generally Europeans have to work in order to overcome. The Greeks need to work in their arrogance when it comes to their neighbors and their provincialism or their complex of superiority or inferiority when it comes to the rest of Europe. But that is not a Greek phenomenon. Maybe in Greece it is a little bit too much when it comes to the region. But as far as the rest is concerned, I've seen that in Italy, I've seen that in Spain, I've seen that in Portugal, I've seen that in France, I've seen that everywhere. So work on that. If you have students, you have professors that do not care about cooperation with North Macedonia, you can find other professors who are willing to do so. Contact me and I can help you with that. That's what I'm telling you. Try to find your ways, improvise a little bit. That's why I said one level is what I'm going to do with Verskovsky or it's Verskovsky or Christopoulos coming from the two sides, and another way, what you're going to do. Use the forum that the Civil Alliance brings you to and you get to know each other. That is something already, I'm sure Juliana and Anastasia and most of you have already done. So this is what it's about. There is not a general recipe on that.
To push the borders. Yeah. Nikos is our last student for discussion for today.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Thank you very much to all our speakers. I just have like a quick comment and some suggestions and personal experience to share. I genuinely believe that meeting people in person is the best way in getting to know, the other. Let's say my first personal experience was with fellow participant Yorgos Koukos in 2012, when in the whole craziness that was surrounding Skopje 2014 project, we were called to go to a 3-day workshop with Macedonian students, many of them who were like members of the Vemero youth or whatever, you name it. We were told, be careful, don't discuss hard topics like history or all these hard topics. But at the end of the day, when we got there, we really get to know each other, and we managed to discuss all of the soft topics, but also the hard topics. But it was really important to get to know each other, to listen to what they said, because as was mentioned before, it's not only fake news, it's also negative news, the ones that we hear, and we have to go to be careful and also put a filter to the information that we're absorbing. Also, at the same time, we have to do something. We can just wait to be invited and be invited to cooperate with our neighbors. We have to. There are many ways. I mean, there are like institutes that are really active in both countries. Like it's like the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung. There is Konrad Adenauer Stiftung. They are really involved. They have like regional offices in both countries. They do many actions together. People should really be active and participating in this kind of initiative. They do like exchange workshop, not now with the pandemic, but they do many things that many young people, they're willing to help young people and get people to know each other. So I think that we should also be active and ask around, as the professor said, to ask people who show genuine interest about the region and about regional cooperation. We have to ask them. We have to put ourselves out there and just ask for more and see what opportunities there are for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikos, and your statement. It's a good wrap up of our discussion today. We came to the end after an hour and a half fruitful discussion on this topic, education like a meeting point for reconciliation. Maybe you want to share your final words, not naive optimism towards reconciliation between those two countries. Ladies first, or maybe Professor Christopoulos?
No, Christopoulos has nothing to say.
Okay.
Yes, sure, I can jump in. Well, just tying to what the last speaker mentioned is, that there are a lot of opportunities out there on both sides. It just depends what your interest is in and how you can contribute to it, like be it part of civil society, right? Part of through an educational institution, or through individual cultural based. So it's just an encouragement from my side to reach out to the opportunities that Youth Alliance and their partners in Greece are doing, and see what's in your interest and how you can contribute to the cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliana.
Okay, I totally agree with Juliana, and as I said before, the most important thing is to start even like with small things. Like if you feel like you want to travel or talk to someone or experience something, you should absolutely go for it. The way to collaboration and to a more open perspective is to always try new things and to try to place yourself in new environments, actually try to experience the life and try to experience the actual everyday situations of the people in the neighboring country. For me, it was a very big lesson to actually see how people live their lives every day and how they what they worry about, what are their problems, what we have in common. So if you get to do this connection on a personal level, then it will be very easy for you to find actually the initiatives and the ways that you can make a change. Because if you know what you're working on, then it's a lot easier to make a positive impact on that. So knock the door, send that email, try to approach people by yourselves, and try to search as much as possible to find the institutions or the NGOs that actually offer opportunities, because very often they're undercover. They might not be on your face, but they're still there. They're still online, and there are still people who are working on things. So I think that's the important thing, to actually have a positive and proactive approach on working by yourself and bringing yourself close to others.
Thank you very much, Anastasia. Thank you all for this concrete materialization of hope, as Professor Christopoulos said. The logo of this conference is a staple. Any of us could be a staple between collaboration of those two countries, and we can start to be a staple from now. Thank you very much for your attention and your involvement in this conference. Have a great day.